Welcome back. Project 1918 is filmed right here at the Canadian Tank Museum, a working museum that welcomes more than 20,000 visitors every year and hosts some of North America's largest military vehicle events. Because the restoration happened right here on the museum floor, visitors can watch the work as it happens. We're adding a few signs and displays around the museum today so they can learn more about the project, and if they want to see what happens next, they can head home and follow the series just like you are. If you're ever in the greater Toronto area, come and say hello and be a part of the journey yourself.
Okay, so we're back again at Canadian Tank Museum, working on the parts for the Nash Quad. What we're doing today is reassembling the front differential after it was repaired. There's other video of that. So what I'm going to do now is the main assembly's been put back into the housing, and now I'm going to put the bearing caps on that hold these two bearing races. Here we go. Here. Okay, so now I'm going to install the bearing caps. There's one goes on this side and one goes on this side. And then 4 bolts. Now there is no torque setting that I can find in the manual for these bolts. So we're going to do them up hand tight. They're going to get wired so they can't come undone anyway. So
They got a little hole in them too?
Yeah.
I thought the other ones were sort of rewired the bolts to the other bolts. What do these ones get wired to?
From here to here.
Over the top?
Yeah, they're along there.
Vehicle is currently parked in a fire zone. That is a white Ford Escape.
Nice and smooth.
It's a beautiful thing, Catherine. Look at that. No noise.
Okie dokie, Smokey. Get to make some gasket kits. Hopefully I got enough. I should order way more of this shit.
So, what is this you are making the marks around?
A gasket. So these are for the bolts to go through, and this gasket, because this will be filled up with lubricant. So you need to have a gasket between the two mating surfaces so all the lubricant doesn't leak out. What do we have here? Okay, so we're going to put the other half of the housing back together, and I've got the two new gaskets in place. So what I do is I put a little grease down there to help hold the paper in place while I'm setting this on there. That's why it looks like it's stuck down. It's greased down.
It's been going in pretty smoothly so far then, Rick, yeah?
Yeah, so far I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop.
So once this is all put back together, what's the next step for it?
It needs to be painted.
Oh.
I don't want to crack the cast iron either. Okay, that fit up good. Okay, so we're removing the pinion gear. So this there's a ring gear goes here, and this pinion gear drives that ring gear, which in turn drives the two drive shafts or axles out to the wheels.
And there's a really delicate tool we're using here, a very delicate tool.
You got a head.
Like Nigel. Hey! Close that part. Have a look. There you go. Okay. Going real slow. Everything fell off? There we go. It's called pinion gear.
A pinning gear?
Pinion.
Pinion.
Like onion with a P. Pinion. So you can see the bearings are in good shape. The gear is not all chewed up. And there'll be very little swearing involved.
Wash rack. With a light that even works.
We're going to take all the 110-year-old heavily solidified grease of the bearing, which is in really good shape. The teeth are not scored. Rotates nicely. Doesn't grind. Shaft's not scored at all.
Out from the Nash Quad. This is the brake shoe. And we just finally removed the pad, the old pad. The next stage is to get the rivets out, which probably means grinding them down and then pounding them out or drill them, depending on how well they come out. So that's the next step on this project.
There's two different types of rivets there.
Seems to be some are aluminum and some are steel. Doesn't make sense to me, but that's what they are.
Maybe they were switched around or something in the past. Reshoes.
Never, don't know. Could be repairs at the time, reconstruction later. Who knows?
Are we going to create the whole new felt ourselves as well?
Yes. Eventually, that we'll have a whole new, new brake shoes all the way around.
And you guys have made these obviously before, yeah?
Yeah. Every once in a while they break coming apart, but they're never going to be used again anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's a little bit of the rivet there that came away with it. Obviously, it wasn't put in very well at the start. Rivets out, clean, ready to go into the sandblaster.
Funny. Thank you.
What do you do? You want the more like a before and after shot.
Yeah, right?
Stay pretty well back for now, because the thing will be full of dust. And it's like opening the doors on a fireplace. You do it slowly. Let the dust suck out. So there's part way through. Yeah, you don't want to get too close to this dust. It's a glass medium, and the dust gets into your lungs, which is a bad thing. So, elapsed time, 15 minutes for sandblasting. Checking the light. And there's the finished product.
Looking good.
Ready to go. My name's Ron Short. I'm one of the worker bees here on the 1918 project.
I got involved with the project because I have a certain expertise. I'm a canvas and leather guy. So when it comes time to do the tarp and the leather straps, etc., I'll come into my usefulness. Right now, all I do is strip parts, paint them, and get them ready, while other people are doing more advanced stuff like working on brakes.
How long have you been for the museum now for one?
I've been with the museum for 3 years now. I've managed to recruit 2 people for the museum. One, a good buddy of mine who came up, and I even had my wife working up here for a little bit doing really good body work. Unfortunately, her health doesn't allow her to be here anymore.
How long does it take to get the hat?
200 hours of work at the museum, plus you have to go through certain courses, and there are time periods, like you have to do 20 hours, say, on guide work. I had a group of 40 young students, spent 2 hours walking them around. I have a long military history, so I don't have a problem doing the guide work. I enjoy it.
Was there any one particular deployment which stands out?
No.
No?
Just the same food, just different location.
Yeah. Is it a good camaraderie with the guys you're with though?
There's always that. Well, while you're with them, you're great buddies. Hopefully you keep in touch with the people later on, and it is a little depressing sometimes that when you meet somebody that you knew from 20 years ago, that the first thing that comes out of the conversation is the casualty list.
So you like with the same people and the same, you don't talk about so much, but you just know you're in the same headspace as these guys?
Most of the people here who are at a senior level came out of the armed forces. So for us, it's like moving to a new base. There's always somebody that somebody knows that you know.
And you get to do wonderful projects too.
So I came up here and figured I'd do some stuff. I do a lot of sandblasting and painting. I enjoy it.
Things, and then we can move on. We can chat more about other things as we go along too.
Okay, well, how about the looking at the lanterns here? There's a little bit of a story with those. These are some of the original lanterns from the Nash Quad, coal oil type lantern, with the filler cap, etc. These are the side mounts, the handhelds, that would be carried on the box of the Nash so that they could lift them out and carry them around. That is the way it started for us. That one has been stripped, but we only had one of the reservoirs. So our resident machinist, Ken Courtney, made up a second one. It's fully functional, just to try to get the idea that it is just a little bit more correct and complete. We could have just gone with one, but we decided to go with 2.
This is the original too?
Those are all, yeah, those are the original parts. So, but they've been taken off and painted now, ready to go back together. So what I'm going to have to do is spray paint the inside of that with like a chrome paint to give it more reflective. The originals would have had polished metal in there. So we're just using chrome point to give it more reflection. It'll look more accurate. So this is a CCKW. It's an American truck from 1942. And it is important kind of to military history is this is the type of truck that was used on the Red Ball Express. So it's been largely disassembled. It's had more body work done to it. So my particular job on this is to take the backrest from the passenger seat and try to repair this damage. And it's all needle and thread by hand. So if somebody wants to work on it and make it look better 20 years from now, they can, but that side will be in good condition to put on display. Well, everybody talks about our HUP, which is actually a heavy utility wireless, because the transition was so dramatic from the time we got it. First started here, this was the first project they had me working on. Most of the canvas work, well, all the canvas work, all the way around the seats and everything are what I was here for, replacing these windows. So that'll be my portion of the work coming up on the 1918 project.
That's one of the reasons why you were chosen for the project?
That's one of the reasons they shanghaied me into this project. When I look at this poster from the First World War, I've always wondered whether my uncle was one of those soldiers in that photo, or one of them.
And you like, I mean, that time, like you spent so much time in it, that was really, it meant something was really worth it to you, right?
It became a major part of my life. Every time I had difficulties in my life, I always had the Army that I could go to and get not so much sympathy, but assistance of one sort or another.
What would you say as well, just like a final sort of note here to other people, other military serving guys, about the museum, about maybe?
I've seen some people that I've worked with that I've suggested it to. It's be their choice, but if they're missing it, it's a good place to get back into it and to give back again, like we always do.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to replace this shovel holder right here on the side. It's going to eventually look like this. I've already made up one, but I'm going to make up another one. So here's the part of the process on making up this. And it's got a lot of different bends in it right here, some compound bends. And it is a little tricky to set that up. So I've cut a piece of metal. I've transferred the pattern from here into a flat pattern. And this is how I just got my blank here, how to cut this up, how much space I need here. So giving myself a little bit more space, it gives me 4 inches, and I like to trim stuff off both ends by 17. Some people make the mistake of measuring from one end and then building it all from one end, and they wind up being short. I don't do that. I've learned from experience. Now it's called wisdom. And I'm going to be moving from the middle of this to the ends rather than from one end and going that way. So here's a little trick. This is actually from a tailor shop, fabric store. This is a tape that will bend right there. So I know that measurement is 11 inches from here to here. And that's my center point. And then if I add a little more up here, and I could follow the bend exactly with a fabric tape like this, not a metal tape, a fabric tape, and that's going to come out to 2 inches. So 11, 2, and 2, and that's going to come out to 15 inches. So this length right here, I gave myself 17 inches. I'm going to find the center point on the metal, and then I'm going to curve it, and then it's going to go this way and this way. I'm not going to build it from one end, so it's going to be symmetrical. So what I can show, I still have to sand this down right here, and then I'm going to curl it up and make it look like this, and that's going to be part of the process. Okay, so I got to grind this off right now. I'm prepping the metal now to put it through my bead roller. So I get one of the things that's important when you're using an old school bead roller. I'm going to show you how to work the bead roller in just a minute here. That bead roller is probably 100 years old. Make sure you get all the edges off right here so it doesn't groove the bead roller over there. These all need to be smoothed out. So this is a 100-year-old bead roller. Some people may have used them in their old high school workshops. I think this one's probably about 100 years old. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the bead roller to put the initial groove, the initial radius into this. So the first pass on a bead roller, these two rollers are going to pull it through the bead roller, and the first pass is going to be is just for contact. I think that's pretty close right there. All right. All right, so I'm going to start cranking it down a little bit. So I'm going to go 1 revolution of the adjusting screws here on the back. So these are adjusting screws, 1 revolution on each side. Try to keep it even. Run through one way, flip it over, do it again the other way. One revolution. There we go again. You start to see it coming along there. I'm going to try another full revolution of the adjusting screw. Eventually it's going to get down to about 1/8 of a turn. This is about the heaviest gauge I can put through on this roller. Oh, that was too much. We're going to go back. Now we're back to 1/2 a turn. Let's see how we're doing. We can compare it to the one I want here. That's pretty good right there. Yeah, I'm not going to go anymore. I'm going to start marking it off for the extra fold right here. It's about 17 inches, 8.5 inches, and then I want it, I'm working from the middle here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to 11, I think that was 11 inches. Yeah, that was 11 inches. So it's going to be 5.5 inches now. So I change it back to 5.5 inches, and this is how I mark down where I'm going to be. 5.5 inches there, and then it's going to be 11 inches down here. Okay, so I'm going to work from the middle of this curve, not the end, because any trimming I want to do is going to come off both ends. I'm not just going to trim off one end, it's going to trim off both ends. Right here, right there. So that line should line up with this point right here and this point right there. That's the plan. It's going to go roughly right there. So I'm going to work on this one, and then I'm going to work on that one. So this one's got to bend down a little bit, and this one is going to be the curve up. There we go. This is the persuader. So what I need now is a more gentle curve on this part right there. And it's going to be a gentler curve in here. And I'm using what I got. We do have an anvil, but I kind of like the shape of this frame right here. So this is going to become my anvil right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little sharper edge on it right here, and then I'm going to go back to the more rounded edge on it. I know I'm using some pretty primitive tools here, but this is probably the kind of tools they used on this box originally. When I'm hitting this, I am hitting, the force of the blow is coming through here, and I'm hitting just here. Because this is the side I want to go down. This part of the metal here is going to get thinner, right down this dotted line here, but this area right in here is the part that has to move. So I'm not beating on the line, I'm beating just forcing the blow down. I got a little bit of a shear to it when I'm hitting down, kind of going like this on the way down. Pretty close. Something to work with now. The final fitting, I'm going to trim it down here as well. These edges don't have to be great. But the final fitting is going to be to the actual tools that we're going to be putting on the side of this box. And they were vintage tools too. So that's how that's going to work. It's going to be some more final fitting. The shovel is going to come in here. And the reason I don't work from the ends, because this is going to get trimmed off here, and then this is going to get trimmed off here. So it's not like, well, you start on one end, it's going to make the other end all messed up. So that's why I start from the middle and I go this way, and I start from the middle and go this way. So just some of my tricks I'm doing this one right here.
Hit with the full force of the German army's assault starting in August 1914, the French army was happy to accept any additional equipment they could get to help with their war effort, including motor vehicles. This is the story of the Quad in service with the French army. In 1914, all the belligerents of the First World War go to the fight with horses being their primary mode of transport and moving around supplies. To give you some context of the scale and effort that horses, mules, and other equine animals were involved in, the Canadian Corps needed over 23,000 horses to sustain the fight at any given time. Canada itself shipped out around 130,000 horses throughout the course of the war, and sadly, up to around 500,000 horses died throughout the British and Commonwealth forces during the conflict. On the 6th of September 1914, the French army got its first glimpse into how useful motor vehicles can be when Renault AG taxis that were used around Paris were used to ferry troops to the First Battle of the Marne that was ongoing at the time. With each taxi being able to carry 3, maybe 4 soldiers at a time compared to maybe 1 or at best 2 on horseback, it showed the enormous potential that the army could tap into using motor vehicles. As part of the Nash Quad's story with the French army, it's important to note what the French army had in the way of artillery going into the war. In 1897, they had introduced the Modèle 1897, or Model 1897, 75mm cannon, or Canon de 75, as they commonly knew it. This cannon was an innovation over existing artillery technology at the time in the sense that it was the first to introduce a hydropneumatic recuperator, which is a system that uses fluid pressure to counteract the recoil of the cannon rather than the whole cannon simply rolling back on its gun carriage and then having to be resighted, loaded, and set up all over again. This innovation dramatically improved the cannon's rate of fire up to about 8 rounds a minute and extended its effective range out to 6.5 kilometers, far better than existing cannons had been beforehand. Mind you, it still showed signs of being designed in the era in which it was made, that being slightly before the dawn of motor vehicles in the sense that there's no suspension built into its gun carriage because it would have been towed by a team of 6 horses, meaning that a cannon designed like that, if towed at too high a speed, would be shaken to pieces from the uneven ground that it was traveling over. So this is where the Nash Quad comes into play. With these considerations in mind, it's now pretty easy to see why the Nash Quad would be a pretty ideal choice for towing this cannon around. Top speed of around 24 kilometers an hour, not too fast even for a cannon with metal and wood wheels and no suspension built in, but there's also space in its rear body to even transport the cannon on board. And it's especially in this particular way that the Nash Quad would come into its own in several applications throughout the rest of the war with the French army. With the Quad's payload being 2 tons and the cannon's weight being 1.14 metric tons, it was a natural combination. The French army started forming these groupes d'automitrailleuses et d'autocanons, literally meaning groups of machine gun cars and artillery cannon cars that they started incorporating into their battlefield doctrine. The introduction of these Gamacs is a watershed moment in the French army since it's the first time that machine gun and artillery technology is being motorized. And a certain Colonel Jean-Baptiste Eugène Estienne had in fact established this logic fairly on in the war with a quote to the effect of, La victoire appartiendra à celui qui placera un canon de 75 sur une voiture tout-terrain, literally meaning victory will belong to the party who can place a 75mm cannon on an all-terrain car. In that area, one of the peaks rose up to 956 meters above sea level. And in the context of artillery, high vantage points are extremely useful for observation and directing fire against the enemy. So the Nash Quad was especially helpful in setting up French artillery units for success in that sector. Although I must admit it was a bit harder to confirm evidence one way or the other to this exact point, it's also worth noting how important trucks were in the effort to sustain the Battle of Verdun. And of course, we wouldn't be surprised if Nash Quads were working in general as supply vehicles or as these autocanon vehicles in that sector as well. There was one key road leading in and out of the Verdun sector called La Voie Sacrée, or literally the Sacred Way. And along that supply route, hundreds and hundreds of trucks went back and forth with ammunition, cannons, and other vital supplies that were needed to sustain the French effort to hold that city. In the end, they succeeded, but at great cost. Suffice it to say, between its autocanon role and general supply duties, the Nash Quad well and above earned its keep in the French army, serving with them for the rest of the war. It also served with numerous other Entente powers throughout the conflict, and next time we'll explore its service with the British Army. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Project 1918. We need your support to make this project a success, and you can join us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok to follow us and support us. You can also donate to our expansion project and this restoration project through our website at tankmuseum.ca. We want to build Canada's best armored vehicle museum, and your support means a lot to us in making that happen. Thank you very much.